Oh, come tell me, Mícheál Ó'Doibhilín, tell me why you hurry so. Push a bugle, push and listen, as the sheets are all aglow. I bear orders from the captain, get you ready quick and soon. For the pikes must be together by the rising of the moon. By the rising of the moon, by the rising of the moon. For the pikes must be together at the rising of the moon. Oh, come tell me, Mícheál Ó'Doibhilín, where the gathering is to be. In an old spot by the river, quite well known to you and me. One more word for signal token, whistle out the marching tune. Wear the pike upon your shoulder at the rising of the moon. At the rising of the moon, at the rising of the moon. Wear the pike upon your shoulder at the rising of the moon. How the many with the wall cabin noise, oh, watching through the night. Many a manly heart was beating for the blessed morning light. Murmurs ran along the valleys to the banshee's lonely croon, and 1,000 pikes were flashing by the rising of the moon. By the rising of the moon, by the rising of the moon.
What's really sad is that these brothers, when they were so important in Irish history and Irish politics, that they didn't leave enough stuff behind them to keep us all informed. So where we are now, grandchildren and great-grand-nephews, literally digging to get the information to pass on to our children, so that they won't be forgotten.
They won't be lost, you know, because they were very important people, you know, at their time. And it's just that we feel as a family that justice wasn't given to them through history, you know, and they were kind of airbrushed to the side of history, where we're trying to, as Francis said, we're trying to reignite the whole thing back up again, to allow our great-grandchildren and our children to come, that they will know where our family stood, you know.
We're here in front of Kilmainham Jail, a jail that's played a huge part in Irish history, where many Irish rebels and freedom fighters were held, and among them the most significant obviously were those of 1916. But interestingly, there's a further relationship that goes back to the 1880s, and that was Joe Poole, who was here and sentenced to death for a murder he did not commit, later executed.
He was a brother of Christopher, of the first marriage, of his father's first marriage. His father, Frederick Poole, was married twice. And he was a son of the first marriage. Christopher was a son of the second marriage. Along with his other three brothers.
My great-great-grandfather, he was married twice as well. That was Frederick's father. Frederick, he got married. It was around the time of the famine, and I think a lot of people, children, you know, died, and you know, his wife died, of all sorts of things, you know what I mean? So it was sad. I still find it sad.
It is. It's very, very sad.
All his adult life, Arthur Griffith had set himself absolutely against physical force. He told us the story of Joe Poole to illustrate the evils of physical force. Poole belonged to one of two factions into which the IRB had split 30 years before. A member of the opposing group, a stonemason, had been seen going into Dublin Castle. He had legitimate business there, but the other group concluded he had become a spy. He was secretly tried, sentenced to death. Poole heard of the decision, and believing that the man was innocent, set out to warn him that the firing party was laying in wait for him. Joe took the wrong road at Savile Place and missed his man, who walked in the ambush and was killed. Poole was arrested, tried for the murder of the man whose life he had endeavoured to save. He kept silent and was found guilty and hanged. This made a huge impression on Griffith.
His descendants were in the Easter Rising, played a major part in it. Christie, of course, being second in command to Mícheál Ó'Doibhilín in Stephen's Green, ceding that position to the Countess Markovich towards the end of the rebellion. Two others in the General Post Office. And as the rebellion was planned, of course, they would have had a major part in that.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Well, you see the Irish Republic and Brotherhood.
Yeah.
This must be a bone of contention with the Pooles. The fact that he's mentioned as one of the Sixth Invincibles.
This plaque rests on the grave of James Skin the Goat Fitzhorace in Glasnevin Cemetery, Dublin. In addition to Fitzhorace, it commemorates the 5 Invincibles hanged in Kilmainham Jail and the 6th Invincible, Joe Poole, hanged in Richmond Jail, 18 December 1883.
But you've also got to understand that they were the dark days and they were the poor days, and people had nothing, and that's what brings on revolutions anyway.
A little bit of history about the Pooles, please.
Well, I mean, the Pooles have been in Dublin for quite a long time, and they appear really to have kept under the radar, but that doesn't mean that they weren't active. People like Joe Poole, certainly, who was involved and ended up, of course, in jail for his involvement and being executed. Joe was basically fitted up for a crime he didn't commit. An informer. John Kenny was killed in his presence. Apparently this was actually an assassination attempt on Joe himself. There was a split, of course, within the Republican movement in Dublin at the time. There were several factions, and he was in one, Kenny was in another, and the attempt was to take Joe out. He was later to be charged with organising an assassination attempt on Kenny, was found guilty at a second trial with a rigged jury and a very, very biased judge, and he was executed in what was then, he'd been in Kilmainham Jail, of course, before a trial was taken, then up to Richmond Marshalsea, which is now, of course, Griffith College, and he was hanged, the second person to be hanged there, and buried there. Inspector Mallon, the Chief of Police, who had actually led the investigation into him, later was to admit that he was innocent of the charge, but he said that he was guilty of an assassination attempt in Liverpool, which they couldn't prove, and that was why they set him up for this one. So he was executed for a crime he didn't commit.
Is there a controversy surrounding his death?
There is controversy. Basically, Binns was the British hangman at the time. It was expected he would do it, but he was already in an execution the day before in England. Couldn't get over in time, so they got another hangman, allegedly from Belfast. Nobody knows who he was. An old man, about 60. who said he was very, very experienced. He carried out executions in England, etc. But nobody can find him. And it does appear that he wasn't that experienced because, according to reporters who were present, when Joe was dropped, he went through the trapdoor. And normally what would happen, of course, is that, there would be a slight bounce and then the rope would swing and the prisoner should be dead within a couple of seconds. But in this case, the rope stayed dead straight because basically Joe was standing on the ground. There was panic. The hangman tried to pull him back up. The doctor ran down under the scaffold and wrapped himself around him and dragged him down, choking him, which of course was murder because the doctor wasn't entitled to kill him, only this unknown hangman was supposed to do it. And this is probably why when the body was discovered some 15 years later, the jail had now become a barracks and the OPW was carrying out some work on it. They'd found the body and his mother looked for it back and everybody, the newspapers at the time said yes, they'll get it back. It's normal to give it back. It was no longer a prison, he shouldn't have been there. But they didn't give it back, they reburied him because I allege the doctor was still alive. The doctor had certified that death had occurred within something like 5 seconds, that his neck was broken, conventionally the second and third vertebrae separated, which snapped the spinal cord, and that did not happen. And if they got the body back, they could have proven it, and could therefore have taken the charge of murder against the doctor. Okay. So I reckon that's why they didn't get it back. Of course, the obvious thing was also if they got him back and buried him with his father, that grave could now be a nationalist shrine. Okay. And again, the British would have been afraid of that.
Where do you think he is buried?
Within, they said, 150 patriots of the front gate.
Okay.
Precisely where there were, I know, searches carried out. The family have carried out searches since, unsuccessfully. There's been a lot of building here. I presume the OPW would have original plans, and it may be possible to figure out where he is. There is a plaque to him here, which was put up in 2008 by the family, and quite a big turnout for that. And he's still here, and he shouldn't be here. Even if he was guilty, he shouldn't be there. This is no longer a prison, and that's where he was supposed to be. Once it ceased to be a prison, his body should have been moved. That's normal practice.
My father and his father, Christopher, they got permission to dig for his body.
Okay.
Presumably it was supposed to be Joe's body in the grounds here of the college. And they didn't find the body. What they found was, I believe, the only bone they found was a sheep's bone. And I asked my dad at the time why they didn't find the body. He said at the time that people who were criminals, when they were buried in quicklime. So as to more or less do away with the body and deny the person's very existence by the fact that there was never a body there.
There was a poem written, The Irish Walker.
Oh yeah.
And it was initially brought on the 1912 issue. And there was a poem in it on Joe Poole. It was called, at the beginning, Remember Poole. Our murdered brother Poole, shall we forget when Erin's cause is thriving, when the freedom crowned the gale, the man of men in the battle striving, for Erin did not quail. And when the craven slaves were crawling in the Maryland, to God and honour lost, resolved to strike a blow for Holy Ireland, no matter what the cost. And that was actually done in the Irish Walker in 1912, just at Christmas time.
Before the Easter Rising of 1916, one of the delegates suggested that the Supreme Council should establish an intelligence service to deal with possible enemy agents within our own ranks. An old Dublin man stood up immediately and denounced the proposal. I saw such a thing in operation before, he said, and it was disastrous. It culminated in the assassination of an innocent man at Seville Place and the subsequent hanging of Joe Poole, another innocent man for his murder.
Brendan Bean, he used to read the Herald, you know, and he'd always read up on certain stories.
Okay.
And he would write into the guy that done the story. Yeah. And if he found anything interesting. So once upon a time he picked up a reference to the Invincible times. There was a story done in the Invincible times, and it happened to be on Joseph Poole. Okay. And of course Brendan Bean, he knew my dad, they often had a point together, you know. And because my mother's name was Bean.
I believe it is on account of being an enemy, humble as I am, of the government under which I have the misfortune to live, that I have been persecuted in the manner I have been. Still, I am not afraid to die, or ashamed of what has brought me to the scaffold. It is not for murder, it is for being a member of the Irish Republican Brotherhood that has brought me to the scaffold, and I am prepared to die for it. There is one thing that I would wish to say to my fellow countrymen and some people I see here. I am thankful to you for having placed such implicit confidence in me, even knowing the temptations I am surrounded with. I am thankful to you, gentlemen, and if it is not out of place, I say farewell to all, farewell to Ireland, 3 cheers for the Irish Republic, and to hell with English tyranny.
Wear the pike upon your shoulder at the rising of the moon, at the rising of the moon, at the rising of the moon. Wear the pike upon your shoulder at the rising of the moon. Out of many a with the wall cabin noise, watching through the night, many a manly heart was beating for the blessed morning light. Murmurs ran along the valleys to the banshee's lonely croon, and 1,000 pikes were flashing by the rising of the moon, by the rising of the moon, by the rising of the moon. And 1,000 pikes were flashing by the rising of the moon. All along that singing river, that black mass of men was seen. High above the shining weapons flew the round beloved green. That's who every foe and traitor whistle out the marching tune. Hurrah, me boys, for freedom, 'tis the rising of the moon. 'Tis the rising of the moon, 'tis the rising of the moon. Hurrah, me boys, for freedom, 'tis the rising of the moon. Well, they fought for poor old Ireland, and full bitter was their fate. Oh, the glorious pride and sorrow fills the name of 98. Yet thank God there still is beating hearts and manhood burning noon, who would follow in their footsteps at the rising of the moon. By the rising of the moon, by the rising of the moon, who would follow in their footsteps at the rising of the moon. By the rising of the moon, by the rising of the moon, who would follow in their footsteps at the rising of the moon, at the rising of the moon, at the rising of the moon. For the pikes must be together at the rising of the